I'm going on an adventure. So there's only one way to figure it all out. Unzip the archaeology. Make it. Is this going to be the archaeological trial of the century?
I think so, yes.
The world is watching.
It should.
Basically, the overall picture is what? If you could just explain. There's a factory, a ring, forging antiquities and selling them into the marketplace. Like, what exactly is going on?
Exactly that. A ring of people who forge systematically antiquities and market them in Israel and abroad, selling them to private collectors, galleries, museums, all around the world.
And what kind of monies are we talking about?
We're talking about millions of dollars. And actually, it's not only the money that concerns us here, it's the contamination of archaeology as a science. And forgery not only of the artifacts, but forgery of history. And that's serious.
How serious? A forged object can change history. Imagine if someone claimed to find the tomb of Moses in Jordan, or the bones of Jesus anywhere. Such direct contact with the past might reshape our present and our future. But spotting the forger's hand has never been easy. You see, archaeology reads stones. And sometimes archaeologists can't agree what the stones are saying.
And I can't see any difference between the beginning or the end.
That's the case with the James Ossuary. An ossuary is a stone bone box used at the time of Jesus. And the side of this one says, James, son of Joseph, brother of Jesus. When it surfaced in 2002, some scholars declared this to be the greatest archaeological find of the last century, the first real physical evidence of a man named Jesus. But other scholars say,
it's done beautifully. If it's forged, it's by a genius.
If it is a forgery, this is the man accused of being that genius. Oded Golan, owner of over 3,500 pieces of biblical archaeology, one of the world's largest private collections. His passion for collecting started early.
Well, I began to collect antiquities at the age of 8. In later years, at the age of 10, for example, I found in Mount Hatzor, in Tel Hatzor, the oldest dictionary ever found in the world. At that time, I didn't recognize, of course, that this is the most important inscription found until that time in northern Israel. In later years, I traveled a lot to the old city of Jerusalem, and I used to buy antiquities already at that time. And one of the items that I purchased in the early 70s was this ossuary. This inscription is one of the more important inscriptions that I have in my own collection.
But that inscription just might cost Oded Golan everything.
It might be possible, it may be possible, yeah.
He's about to go on trial for antiquities forgery. Here are the most serious charges. 1. Forging a number of ancient objects, stone lamps, royal seals, and inscriptions. 2. Forging the Yoash stone, an ancient tablet supporting Jewish claims that Solomon's temple once stood on the Temple Mount. 3. The charge grabbing the most headlines. Forging the James Ossuary inscription, thus affecting the history of Jews and Christians around the world. But if the inscription turns out to be real, it'll be the first physical evidence of Jesus of Nazareth. Now, Oded was indicted as the master forger of the last century. Not of all time, just the last century. You see, about 100 years ago, a gentleman walked out of the desert. He swindled kings, queens, press, and public. And he didn't just forge one or two objects. He faked an entire culture.
Real or fake?
Archaeology studies the past to illuminate the present. To understand today's charges against Golan, we need to dig into the history of biblical archaeology. People have hunted Holy Land souvenirs ever since the 4th century, when Saint Helena claimed to have found bits of the true cross. That was the birth of biblical relics, a sort of proto-archaeology, the start of collectors and dealers of supply and demand. 1,000 years later, medieval forgers did a healthy trade in relics like Saint Isidore's hip bone, Saint Hyacinth's toenails. Real biblical archaeology, what we recognize as a science-based biblical archaeology, starts in 1868. This happened when a French team discovered the Mesha Stela.
Hello, all you people out there in Gameland. Today we're gonna play an exciting new game called
Real or fake? Can you spot the fake? Stela is either A,
An ancient stone tablet with inscriptions describing victories of kings, stele.
or B,
Marlon Brando's most famous line from A Streetcar Named Desire.
The Mesha Stela describes battles between ancient Israelites and Moabites. It was amazing, the first external source corroborating a biblical tale. The stela's discovery inspired one of the world's great swindlers, Moses Shapira. Irit Salmon is a curator at Jerusalem's Tico House, a museum dedicated to Shapira.
Shapira decided to open a shop of antiquity in the old city.
Oh, so he opened it when all this excitement on the Mesha Stela.
Yes.
He said, oh, there's a business here.
Yeah.
People like old rocks.
Yeah, and he opened the shop in the Christian quarter, but when he opened the shop, business didn't go immediately so good. And then an Arab tourist guide came to him and said, if you want to have tourists, make a business with me. And what is the business? Everything which we are missing, we can do during the night. And so a big antiquity forgery started, and every day, every morning, whatever he needed was ready.
So they set up a factory at night for the creation of antiquity.
Yes.
If you think about it, it's the ideal shop. You can go and order whatever antiquity you want, and they make it to order.
His forging methods were simple, but they worked.
Shapira used to put the pottery in salt and also the parchment. He put it in salt.
To make it look old.
Yes.
Okay, I could see that's a fake in a minute. These are very...
Today, yes.
These
me too.
breasts are not
Yeah.
very convincing. And the penis, it shouldn't have the testicles. That's a giveaway. Ancient times,
Nothing like that was found.
no, they're just wrong.
It might look wrong to us now, but 150 years ago, biblical archaeology was in its infancy. No one knew what it should look like. The sexual nature of Shapira's fakes underscores a basic law of forgery. Give the people what they want, and sex sells.
Symbols, but here
What's
really,
sexual of that?
I don't know.
What's that?
Maybe you tell
Oh.
me. I don't know, but
Oh,
but
that
he
looks like a
used,
leg.
Yeah, kind of. He used everything.
I mean, he tricked all these archaeologists, right?
Yes, he did.
It shows they don't
And they
always...
believed in it. And they believed in it. At that time, they really believed in it.
Maybe then they called everything real, and now they call everything fake.
Yes, sometimes yes.
Shapira copied bits of the stela's ancient Moabite text onto pottery. He then sold the forgeries as authentic Moabite artifacts to a host of clients, including the German Kaiser. He produced so many of these fakes that,
If I understand you correctly, they created an entire Moabite culture.
Yeah, exactly.
Real or fake? Can you spot the fake? A Moabite is either A,
A biblical tribe descended from Moab, the son of Lot. Moabite.
or B.
Gangsta rap slang for large jaw. Moabite.
They bought from Shapira 1,700 pieces of Moabitic clay, ceramic. 1,700. They exhibited in the Berlin Museum.
Fake stuff.
Fake stuff.
No one knew what a Moabite should look like. So Shapira played to his audience. He was selling to the Kaiser. So,
I have to say, he made the ancient Moabites look German. He gave them a German mustache. Yeah, look at that. They look downright Prussian.
Yeah.
And he sold them 1,700 pieces. No wonder these guys loved it. They said, look, the ancient Moabites look just like us.
From this, I don't know how many sold.
But isn't it brilliant to, if you're going to fake it, to make it look, the ancient stuff, look like the guys you're going to sell it to?
Maybe. I'm not so
Look
sure.
at that. He gave them Prussian mustaches. I'm surprised he didn't have a little helmet with him.
Yeah.
Look at this stuff.
Shapira's scam seems incredible in hindsight. But remember, in Shapira's day, biblical archaeology was new. No one knew what the real thing should look like. But how do we spot a fake today?
And I don't care if it was made yesterday, I believe it.
Well, you have to learn the forger's secrets.
Real or fake?
Fierce debate surrounds the James Ossuary. Did Oded Golan try to change history with a daring fake? The academics can't agree, and the cops have been called in. I think it's time for a lesson in spotting a fake. Jerusalem antiquities dealer Gil Chaya has spotted a few.
One of the best faker in Israel is an Arab that lives near Nablus. This is a Samaritan oil lamp with a menorah over here. Now,
That menorah looks suspicious to me.
we have very little artifacts with menorahs, so they're worth a lot of money. An oil lamp like this, if it was real, would be $10,000.
10 grand?
$10,000. Now, why is it fake? How can you tell the menorah is fake? The oil lamp is good. It's an original oil lamp.
Really?
Yeah.
There's the menorah, which is the
Seven-branch
candelabra. And Gil says, this is real. Is this stuff real?
Yeah, the whole oil lamp is real.
Everything is real. This stuff has been added. So
they
how do you
went-
know that?
First of all, if you look at it from the side, it's always curved like this, okay? Now, if you look at it over here it's curved, it's convex instead of being concave, which means that this was concave also, but he carved down. He carved around the menorah, you understand? Yeah, here this is an original one, for example, and you see it's concave
see?
everywhere.
This one, here it is. It's up, concave, right? This one, there's a little dip in there,
Convex, yeah.
like that. Good, bad, see? This one bumps down, and the point is, somebody carved it down. It would fool me, boy. It would fool me. So this is going for $400. It goes for anything from $200 to $400. You put a menorah on it, suddenly it's worth 10 grand.
Yeah.
Somebody tried to sell it to you?
Yeah.
And you said, I'm no sucker?
You know, the second you look at something, I can tell it's fake already.
Right.
You get a feel for it.
As soon as the James Ossuary was shown to the world, some said it was real, some said fake. Critics said it was unusual, different from other ossuaries. For instance, almost no other ossuary says brother of. That made it an anomaly. Ed Keel was one of the first to study it. He was a curator at Toronto's Royal Ontario Museum when the ossuary made its debut to the world in 2002. I went back to check in with Keel. He says academics can't agree whether an anomaly makes or breaks an artifact. Even a banana split can split the academics.
This is a fake one?
I think, yes, probably is.
You're not sure?
This purports to be something like 5th century AD from Iran. Silver. It's a nice banana split bowl.
Yeah.
It's the kind of thing that, yeah, princes and, princesses would have and probably eat fruit or something like from it. And then there are various designs on it. If you individually took one of those elements like this, stork creature or a leopard or a palm tree, each one of those in isolation, you could go to a catalog or, at a museum collection and say, oh, look, it's exactly like that. But the problem is it's the combination which is weird. And that's what they've done. They've used the catalog of the collection that's a legitimate collection as a pattern book.
But how do we know that?
Well,
how do we know there wasn't one guy in ancient times who decided to put it all together?
Well, yes, indeed, that's a problem. The funny thing is that the profession falls into two groups of people. There's the one group, when an object appears, they go to the known catalogs and they look down for exactly a parallel for it. And they say, okay, there it is, there's the parallel, it's genuine. There's the other school, which is what I fall into, say, yeah, but the forger has those catalogs too. And I look for something that's totally weird and accept it more readily. But that other group looks at something weird and says there's no parallel for it, it must be false.
I see, that's very interesting. So the very eccentricity will lead one to say, this must be real.
A forger usually copies something that is known.
Using that yardstick, the James for you would be real.
Yeah, because it's weird. Because the very fact that there aren't 150 other exact versions of it.
But that means that two different academics, two different diagnoses.
Within this institution, we have fierce arguments over whether, and it occurs over this piece. I'm wanting to put it out on display, and somebody else saying, oh, I don't really think that it's real, and then you argue over it.
The argument against Oded Golan and the James Ossuary is led by the Israel Antiquities Authority, or IAA. They police Israel's antiquities market, a market where objects are guilty until proven innocent.
Real or fake?
The IAA investigated Oded Golan and the James Ossuary. The scientific charges against the ossuary are technical, but easy to understand. 1. Patina, a crust that builds up on stone over the years. Just like rust on metal, but patina is on stone. If the patina is new, it means the ossuary is fake. Scholars can't agree on how old some of the James Ossuary patina is. 2. Epigraphy, the study of handwriting in ancient cultures. Scholars can't agree if one or two hands carved the ossuary's inscription.
I think it's nonsense.
I agree with
Whether forged or authentic, it is one hand.
Some say the all-important brother of Jesus was carved by a second hand, added at a later date, and so a fake. The IAA leads the charge against Golan. They established a special scientific committee to study the ossuary. The IAA declared and decreed the ossuary was a fake. Amir Ganor is a gun-toting archaeologist. He works for the IAA. He investigated the James Ossuary, which came from Oded Golan's private collection. Ganor is suspicious of private collections. Here's the problem. Artifacts in the market often have shady backgrounds because profit drives the market. And where there's profit, there are thieves and forgers.
כעיקרון, אספנות עתיקות בכל העולם זה דבר שמעודד שוד עתיקות, וצריך להגיד את זה בצורה מפורשת.
The IAA classes dealers with robbers. Why? Well, the law governing dealers is a bit of a contradiction. First, how do dealers get their merchandise?
How did it get here? From a legal dig? I doubt it. Probably some Palestinians who were out of work, ran around the hillside, found tombs, took the stuff out. The Israel Antiquities authorities chased them, and if they got caught right here, if they got caught outside, they went to jail. But if they made it through those magic doors, that's a legal, authorized antiquities dealer. Once they made it, I made it, it's legal, it's kosher, you can sell it. Now that's very frustrating for the Israel Antiquities Authority.
And the IAA likes to share its frustration with the police.
Aren't you frustrated if you chase some kid down, and catch him, then you got him, and if he gets it into the shop and sells it and comes out, he goes to you, and then you can't touch him.
Maybe the artifacts are sold and from that point on they're kosher, but the person will be after him in a minute.
Oh, so you can put him in jail and the dealer who's selling his stuff is okay. Strange, no?
Strange, but true.
Strange, but true. Yeah, well.
Well, I think that the Israeli Antiquity Authority feels some embarrassment. And I cannot blame them, by the way, because the law in Israel is quite a ridiculous law. On one hand, all the dealers are working under license, while the Israel Antiquity Authority knows for sure that the majority of the items which are sold officially under license, under supervision, are coming from illegal excavations.
Yeah, that's the catch-22 of the law, which is actually a good catch. If you're a digger, it's not good to dig, obviously, but if it's already dug out, and because people will always dig, once it's out, then it may as well stay out in the public eye than to be smuggled out secretly outside of Israel. So actually, it's a good law. It's a very good law.
Good or bad, it's a tough law to make work. Tough for the cops, tough for the IAA, tough for the dealers. But is it so tough that Golan is destined to go to jail?
Okay, we shall talk about this later. Okay.
Is the James Ossuary the greatest archaeological find of the last century, or the greatest fake in the history of biblical archaeology?
Tune in next time and find out on The Naked Archaeologist.
I'm going on an adventure. So there's only one way to figure it all out. Unzip the archaeology. Make it naked.
Last time on The Naked Archaeologist.
Fakes and forgeries in the Holy Land. The James Ossuary, a stone burial box with the inscription, James, son of Joseph, brother of Jesus. If authentic, this box held the bones of the brother of Jesus of Nazareth. It surfaced in 2002 and was called the greatest archaeological find of the last century. A direct physical link to Jesus. And then it was labeled the greatest forgery of modern times. Oded Golan, about to go on trial for the alleged forgery of the century. These are his accusers. Yoni Haggis.
We have a forger here. A forger of artifacts who systematically sold and fabricated history.
a Jerusalem cop who thinks Golan is a pathological liar.
I have in my career investigated hundreds of people, maybe thousands, and I can tell which one is lying after a very short time. And Oded Golan, his body language right from the start tells me, I'm lying, I'm lying, I'm lying.
And Amir Ganor, a gun-toting archaeologist. He works for the Israel Antiquities Authority, or IAA. He thinks the inscription is a fake, and that Golan is a thief.
מבחינתנו הגלוסקימה הזאת נשדדה מתישהו. אם היא נשדדה לפני 30 שנה והגיעה לשוק, או אם נשדדה לפני חצי שנה, מבחינתנו זה מדובר כאן משהו שנשדד.
They claim that they investigated 100 people, that I'm heading an international mafia, that a lot of scholars from all around the world who are paleographers and epigraphers and archaeologists and geologists and chemists and artists and dealers.
They're all in your pay, right?
Everyone are all involved in the international conspiracy.
Golan's defenders are secretly meeting in this Jerusalem greasy spoon. Well, they're not really so much defending Golan as attacking his accusers at the Israel Antiquities Authority.
I am convinced that the committee's findings are deeply, deeply flawed.
Accusers, defenders, and Golan and the ossuary. But can't science decide what's fake? Depends who you ask. The IAA says isotope tests prove the inscription is fake. The IAA's critics
let's analyze this area.
Say the test is faulty. Handwriting experts say a second hand added, forged the all-important brother of Jesus. Except for those experts who say,
I think it's nonsense.
I
It's one
agree.
hand,
I
whether-
agree with
whether forged or authentic, it is one hand.
those are the players, except for one, and he's dead. So maybe he won't mind waiting just a little bit longer for an introduction.
Real or fake?
So you don't want this? I want everything. Okay.
Archaeology works by comparing one object to another. We learn about this piece of pottery by comparing it to that one, pieces of a puzzle. And to get the full picture of Golan's story, we need to gather pieces, compare Golan to an earlier case. In the 1870s, the Holy Land was an archaeological Wild West. No isotope tests, no carbon dating, no official system for digging and protecting sites. Everyone prospecting for the big find. Fame, fortune. Enter Moses Wilhelm Shapira.
He was a very strange character. He was an Arpatkan adventurer.
Irit Salmon curates Jerusalem's Tico House, a house once owned by Moses Shapira.
He betrayed his home, his religion, his country, his wife, his profession, his everything.
Shapira had a life of scams, but his most audacious went all the way to the monarch.
Queen Victoria was involved in it.
Queen Victoria was involved?
Yeah.
Why was Queen Victoria involved? Shapira offered the British Museum scrolls that he said were an ancient copy of the Book of Deuteronomy. The price tag was so big, it needed Queen Victoria's purse.
And do you know how much he wanted?
Well, we're talking 1880, so a few $1,000s we're talking?
1 million sterling in 1880. Today it's a lot of money, but that it was forged.
Like $1 billion.
Something like that.
Shapira claimed to have a 2,000-year-old copy of a biblical text. It was the James Ossuary of its day. And like the James Ossuary, Shapira's fake drew attention from all over the world because archaeology isn't just stones and shovels. Archaeology's politics, power, and money. And it's money, cash, dollars, shekels, that worries this group of academics meeting in the Jerusalem Greasy Spoon.
This is amazing. This is a biblical archaeology food fest. It's fantastic.
The IAA says private collections like Oded Golan's are suspicious because profit drives the market. Too much money warps archaeology. But these academics have another money theory. Not enough money causes problems too.
The amount of funds that the IAA receives from the government is very meager. If inscriptions of this sort turn out to be authentic and are sold in museums for enormous amounts of money, what's going to happen is that a lot of people are going to look for inscriptions where inscriptions were found previously. Now, if the IAA has to protect and guard these sites 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all of the money that they receive from the government is going to have to go on the protection and the guarding of these sites.
Yeah, what you're saying is the IAA, the Israel Antiquities Authority, is basically, they're security guards on it. The way security guards protect banks, they're supposed to protect antiquities sites. So just like a security company that failed to protect the bank, the best way to protect themselves is to declare whatever money the thieves got away with as fake money. Somebody made it in their basement. It wasn't the real money.
Money, politics. Wait a minute. I thought archaeology was a science. Let's go back to the science. Some of the first tests conducted on the ossuary were at the Royal Ontario Museum in 2002. Ed Keel was the curator. I asked him if the IAA report calling the ossuary a fake has convinced him.
No, I still maintain that it's conceivable that we were duped by a brilliant forger. But my position, and I feel very strongly about this, is that the information that we were given, the IAA report, had serious flaws in it, and that's because they presented it without cross-examination. And it simply wouldn't stand up in a court of law. The forensic evidence, if you like, the isotope report that they presented was seriously flawed.
The isotope test looked at the inscription at the molecular level to see if someone had tampered with it. The ossuary failed the isotope test, but it passed many others.
It passed every other test, including the ultraviolet test that you guys did.
We didn't spot anything suspicious. Everything looked clean.
Twice it passed the electron microscope test.
Nothing suspicious. No, there is nothing suspicious here.
Passed everything.
The ossuary passed the electron microscope. It passed the ultraviolet. It failed the isotope. But only half the inscription failed. Surprisingly, not the half everyone suspected. You see, the ossuary is valuable because it says Jesus. So if you're the forger, you'd think that would be the bit that you would forge.
The idea was that the first part of the inscription is real, James, son of Joseph. And then someone came in and snuck in the words brother of Jesus. So it was the Jesus that was fake.
Yes.
So then along they come with this isotope test. And the very word that was most in question, Jesus, passes the test.
Yeah, it passed the test.
So suddenly it's the first part now that's fake. And, you know, it was like a switcheroo.
This is the IAA committee report from a woman on the committee. Now get this. The end of the inscription, brother of Jesus, appears authentic. And that's the only part that the indictment says is a forgery. So if you want to know why I say that it's badly bungled, that's why.
The science isn't clear. Politics is at play. So the question comes up, is the IAA prosecuting Golan because they think he's a forger, or is it because they can't stand private collectors and it's time to make an example? IAA and the police say we should ignore objects found by tomb raiders. But what if tomb raiders find the best stuff? Israel Finkelstein is an archaeologist at Tel Aviv University. He thinks there's no way tomb raiders will find better things than trained academics.
We are excavating in Jerusalem for a century and more, century and a half. Every square meter in Jerusalem has been excavated.
By professional excavators?
Professional excavations,
Yeah.
big time. I mean, in major excavations, consortium of universities, going with hundreds of students.
You're saying the professionals found very little?
Found relatively very little. And then you have the robbers sneaking, into a site or a cave at night, with candles, Two of them under the threat of the inspectors and the police, and they have like 2 seconds to work, and they come with hundreds of inscriptions. Come on. Would you believe that?
Yeah.
Good.
You know why? Because you painted a picture of 2 robbers with candles with the cops on their tail. I have a different picture. You have organized digs that need funding, that need volunteers, that need permits, that can't just dig everything up, have to go systematically. And then you have hundreds, if not thousands, of young men, unemployed, scouring the countryside. They don't need funding, they don't need volunteers, they don't need permits, and they're following no rules. Of course they're going to come up with more stuff than the organized digs.
No, I don't agree with you.
Finkelstein's logic is this. Academics didn't find many artifacts. The tomb raiders did. Finkelstein can't believe tomb raiders would succeed where academics fail. So the tomb raiders must be faking it. Then, selling their fakes to antiquities shops. I put the question to Gil Chaya, a Jerusalem antiquities dealer. Chaya says bullae are best to illustrate the argument.
The bullahs are extremely difficult to fake.
Hello, all you people out there in Gameland. Today we're gonna play an exciting new game called
Real or fake? Can you spot the fake? Bullae is either A,
an ancient lump of clay used to make seals on papyrus documents. Bullae.
Or B,
the schoolyard tough guy who stole your lunch money. Bullae.
I'll do anything you say.
Okay, Skipper.
Bullae is a piece of clay, so if a piece of dirt, so find dirt into dirt, it's like find a piece of hay into a haystack, not a needle. Only Arabs could spend the time to find those bullahs. In digs, in official digs, they would never find them. They use volunteers from universities in America, which don't have a trained eye, and will never find these little things.
So you don't think she would find as good stuff as the local Palestinians?
She'll never be able to find a bullah in a million years.
Illegal diggers are sometimes better than the professionals.
Much better, yeah.
Professor Finkelstein said to me, everything is fake unless proven real. That comes in the antiquities market. And he said, how do you explain? We archaeologists, with all our training, hardly found any seals, bullae, or anything. And all of these Palestinian youth with little candles, they find everything.
What is he expecting to find with 20 students from America for 2 weeks every summer, compared to 500 or 1,000 people digging one site for 7 years, day and night? Make the calculation, and that's
Finkelstein is wrong?
Yeah, Finkelstein is wrong. It's completely wrong.
Look at that stuff.
So, who finds the best stuff? Academics or tomb raiders? The question matters, because the people who find the stuff are the people who have the power to write history.
Real or fake?
Look at that. There's our ossuary.
Oded Golan and the ossuary might be grabbing headlines now, but in 1883 it was Shapira who was in the media spotlight when he claimed to have the oldest copy of a biblical text in the world. 70 ancient scrolls from the Book of Deuteronomy. He offered it to Queen Victoria and the British Museum for £1 million.
The whole world came here to see, wow, it's really... And as I said before, the whole world was very, very interested in archaeology, in the Bible and the Old Testament. And so they exhibited one of the parchments to the public, and the line was around the British Museum.
This is how he faked it. First, he took a scroll that was about 300 years old. Then, he got the scissors out.
He cut the margin of the manuscript, of the scrolls. He cut it. And on them, he wrote the new text.
So he had a real 16th century scroll.
Yes.
He cut the bottom, the empty part, and he says, if I just add some letters over here, I've got it made. I can sell it for equivalent of $1 billion. And he almost succeeded.
He almost succeeded.
But it was not to be.
Extra, read all about it.
Dear Mr. Bond, the manuscript of Deuteronomy, which Mr. Shapira submitted to us for examination, is a forgery, as the interest which it has excited is so
An
great,
investigation
and as the
revealed the scam. Shapira fled London. Shapira gives us good reasons to suspect private collectors and private antiquities dealers. But we can't forget, some of the world's most important artifacts come from private collectors.
Most of the more important items were not found in official excavations. The most important inscriptions, for example, ever found in Israel, the Meisha stela, which was found in Jordan, the Dead Sea Scrolls, they were all found in unofficial excavations.
The Dead Sea Scrolls give us insight into Golan and the ossuary. Here's the tale. In 1947, a goat wandered into a desert cave. Its Bedouin owner followed the goat into the cave where he discovered the Dead Sea Scrolls.
This is it. This is the place where the Dead Sea Scrolls came from. How that goat got into this place, I have no idea.
The scrolls entered the private market, just like the James Ossuary. For years, some people called the scrolls fake, just like the James Ossuary. Now, academics recognize the Dead Sea Scrolls as the world's oldest and most important biblical documents.
This is the real thing, right?
This is the real thing.
This is the real thing. It's incredible.
The great Isaiah scroll here.
Peter Flint, co-director of the Dead Sea Scrolls Institute at Trinity University in Langley, British Columbia.
There's something very good about this forgery issue and all these controversies because despite all the hoopla and all the noise, I'm quite pleased because people are saying, hey, the ancient past, the Bible, the scrolls, the statues, the ossuaries, these things matter.
It just needs to be what he wrote.
But when these first appeared on the private market, they were suspected as fakes. So I asked Professor Flint about the current fakes and forgeries debate surrounding Oded Golan and the ossuary.
Let me use an analogy that would be very helpful for your question. We all get computer bugs, and there are very smart people all around the world who are trying to write a bug or a virus that's smart enough to fool everybody, and sometimes they do. And I think in the forgeries market, there are some people who see this as a great challenge. Can I forge an inscription that will fool the scholars? And I think some of them are doing that. Maybe as a game, others for money.
You don't respect those guys?
Well, I would say no, because I think the motivation is to get rich or to get glory.
Grudgingly? Grudgingly?
Well, you know, it's like a counterfeiter of money. It's like someone who counterfeits $1 million. You do admire him, but he's a crook.
The crook in our tale, Moses Shapira, fled London, wandered around the continent until finally, in a Rotterdam hotel, he shot himself. As for his fakes, the scrolls, thousands of pieces of pottery, well, there was a twist. Shapira's fakes started to be valued. The IAA owns them.
Also, the Department of Antiquity has some, and also the Israel Museum has some. There are also private archaeologist who has some pieces at home. And when I had the exhibition, even 2 of the stone heads were for sale in one of the antiquity shops here in Jerusalem.
Oh, they're still selling this stuff,
Still selling it. Today, there is a value to the fakes as well, but it's a fake.
I know, but these are really good fakes.
Good fakes.
Or at least famous fakes.
Yeah.
The fake antiquity, after enough time, takes on value. Value as curiosity, as history, as kitsch. Archaeology can be a topsy-turvy world. As for Golan, as he awaits his trial, he finds his own world taking strange twists.
But this is just, Kafkaesque situation. It's ridiculous.
Kafka, eh? Kafka. You're in the world of Kafka now?
I'm in the world of Kafka. It affected my life, it affected my collection, and it affected science, after all, and it affected the truth.
Truth? As we've just seen, it's not just shovels and stones. Archaeology is a world of politics, cash, and envy. Is the ossuary fake? Well, the Dead Sea Scrolls came from the antiquities market, and some called them fakes for years. Now they're known as the most important biblical documents in the world. So even after Golan's criminal trial, the so-called archaeological trial of the century, it's unlikely that we'll have heard the last word on the ossuary mystery.